24 hours. Their first day, they are getting into the swing of things, integrating with the team, learning the code, and then doing, not big, but like just a small fix, just even like fixing a typo. It doesn't really matter. It's just producing some value and getting it out the door. Like, honestly, I don't really believe that onboarding juniors is its own thing. Like, there's just onboarding developers. Because honestly, onboarding a junior is in many ways the same as you would for any other team member. I think some of the things that have really helped me in terms of making that successful. So one is, how they say that when you interview at a company, like, yes, they're learning about you, but you also get to interview them back. I think the same thing actually applies to onboarding as well. Like, onboarding isn't just how you get a new person onto your team, but it's also an opportunity for your team members, your existing team members, to understand better, like, how is this person going to fit into this team? With whom are they going to be working with most closely, right? What is going to be their role? It's just a good opportunity to get everybody together and, hey, this person is going to be starting in a couple of weeks. What questions do you have? And you'd probably be surprised at some of the questions, like, oh yeah, hadn't even thought of that. The other thing is the turnaround on your onboarding. Onboarding is actually a really good opportunity. I know we all kind of think of onboarding as like, it's just kind of this thing you have to do. But it's actually a really good opportunity because onboarding effectively lets you test your processes. And in fact, it's gotten some companies even, they really operationalize this. So there's one company where they have it's one of their key results for their OKRs, 24 hours from when a person first starts until their first fix or enhancement gets deployed to production. 24 hours. Their first day, they are getting into the swing of things, integrating with the team, learning the code, and then doing, not big, but like just a small fix, just even like fixing a typo. It doesn't really matter. It's just producing some value and getting it out the door. And right, it's 24 hours. Like, what, like most organizations, what developers spend their first day doing? Installing software. Like,
exactly,
right?
Setting up the environments.
Yeah, here's your laptop. It's been freshly imaged from the stock that we use for our accountants and our marketing people. Like, if you're lucky, you have enough privileges to install the software you need, right? Like, wouldn't it be nice if there was like a developer image, or even reach out to them beforehand? Hey, what IDE do you like to work with? What software do you use? And then, while IT is preparing their new laptop, they just set a couple of installers running as well. And a little bit of configuration to do, set up their Slack account, set up their email client, like not just their email account on the mail server, but just get their email like app set up on their laptop, right? And yeah, they'll have to change their password on the first day, but whatever, you probably have to do that anyway, right? Like, and then the dev shows up, they spend like an hour or two just kind of, fiddling with stuff, configuring. And then they're ready to like dive into the code and actually get productive. So first thing is crowdsource it. So get the team together. Hey, this person's going to be starting in a few weeks. What are they going to need? What are their needs going to be? What do we need from onboarding, right? Who are they going to need to meet with, and so on, and then document that, right? So yeah, you're not going to get it perfect the first time, of course not. But you're going to get pretty good, and having something is infinity% better than having nothing at all. So you're bound to have something that's pretty good, and then document that. And also that becomes your template for the future ones. And so then the next time you bring the team together and say, hey, this new person is starting in a few weeks, then here's our list. What do we add? What do we change? One other thing that's quite useful is to assign the new person an onboarding buddy. Ideally someone that they would work with closely sort of during their normal work. But this can be like, hey, here's this person will be your onboarding buddy. So any questions you run into, any things if you get stuck on anything, if something's not quite working and you just don't know whom you're supposed to talk to or what to do next, like you can always reach out to this person. And what's nice about that is, one, then that's just really nice. It makes the feedback very quick within onboarding, so that way the new person's not stuck for too long. Also, you're already starting to build relationships. But then the third thing is that the onboarding buddy then can also kind of be they can say, okay, I think this person is good. Like onboarding is now like done, or okay, we got these things, but oh, we missed this, so we need to make sure we include that, right? Having someone where that's kind of the thing that they're responsible for makes it a lot easier to then kind of measure things as you go and pick up on when things are missing. So you also do want to make sure that you've got tasks ready for them to work on when they show up. So whoever it is going to be brand new to your code base. And so that's why what I like to do is I like to try to reserve some, I call them tour of the code base type of tasks. So these are usually like small, typically kind of isolated or standalone things. They may be very like low value, so you haven't really prioritized them. Ideally, they don't require like too much work or too much understanding of how everything works. But like a few of them in different parts of the code base, and they don't even have to be like functional per se. Like it can, like one of my favorite tasks to assign a new person actually is documentation. Like, here's a class that's critical to the code base. We use it everywhere, and none of the functions have doc blocks, right? None of them have documentation comments. What I'd like you to do is I investigate, figure out why each of these methods exist, what it's used for, what the class is used for, why it exists, and then document it and then commit that, and we'll get that out the door. Those are really fun because, well, one, it requires them to really start analyzing the code base, and ideally they are also reaching out to some of the other devs. Maybe they look through the Git history and they can kind of see, okay, this is why this was added and so on. And it's also just a good way to measure the readability, the maintainability of your code base too, right? And they're adding value. And also, this is a good opportunity to have work picked out that kind of will challenge them in the ways that you want this person to grow. So you might or might not already have this established before they arrive, but if there are certain skills that came out during the interview, or that you're going to want them to develop, this is a good way for you to just kind of set those first few steps along the journey, just kind of get those prepped and ready to go. And there's a good chance you'll have them. Like every backlog has a whole bunch of technical debt type tasks.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you've already got stuff that you can set aside. It's just making that effort to set some time aside to pick them out, and be really thoughtful about it.
Cool. So in order to be able to do this, definitely you need to plan ahead what's going to be the first things that this person will need to be doing for the first 2 weeks, like having an itinerary for this person for the first 2 weeks on which task this person is going to work specifically, or at least for the first week.
I think you can also vary it up as well. So depending upon the culture and how your team and teammates like to work best. There will be some tasks that this new person can come on and work on independently. But then there'll be other tasks where they might be bigger in scope, or they might require a bit more pre-existing knowledge of the code base to solve efficiently. And this is a good pairing opportunity. So, pairing say an incoming junior with their peers, with other junior devs, that works actually quite well. You can also pair juniors with intermediates and seniors. I think those actually, you can get a lot of benefits, not just for the new developer, but also for the intermediate to the senior. I think to get the most out of that, one thing that's important is to make sure that the junior is driving most of the time. If the junior is navigating and there's a senior dev in the driver's seat, what typically happens is the senior just kind of gets into the zone, starts cranking out code, and the junior eventually just tunes out because they just can't keep up. Heck, even when I'm pairing with another senior, I get that way sometimes too. In both ways. So you want to make sure the junior is driving, because that really, it really puts the navigator into this position of they have to be able to articulate and explain and communicate what needs to be done, why it needs to be done a particular way, what principles or design patterns are at play. It's really good. I call it multiplier training, because especially as you get more and more senior, your responsibilities or the ways that you kind of best add value are have less to do with writing code, and they have a lot more to do with leadership, delegation, communication, mentoring, and pairing up senior devs with junior devs is actually a really good way to train them in that, right? So that you have seniors who are no longer thinking about my job is to write code. You have seniors who are thinking my job is to be a technical leader and to ensure that everyone else is producing at their best and has everything in place. They have all the the frameworks, the rails are laid so that they know kind of the way that things are to be built, and they have a good understanding of the different design principles in play, right? So that they're producing very high quality work, right? That's where the real value of a senior developer comes in, not that they can whatever write 10 times as many lines of code as another person in a certain amount of time. Seniors are very used to solving technical problems, and I like as a mentor, I thought that my job was to solve problems. And in fact, there's a local software development boot camp, and I've been volunteering there for like 3.5 years. I go by like on Mondays and Tuesdays after hours, and then I mentor the students. And I remember when I first started doing it, it was kind of a disaster, because I would sit down with a student and they'd be working on an exercise, and there'd be some outcome they were supposed to reach. And for some reason, I thought that it was my job to get to that outcome. I was like, okay, whatever, we're setting up, we have 2 tables and we need to do a query with a join to get it to show, the result over here. And so I would sometimes I would even hop in the driver's seat. Oh, I'm embarrassed to admit that. Like even I was, just don't do any of the things I used to do. I would hop in the driver's seat or I'd be navigating, but I'd basically be dictating code to the student. And it was literally me in a bulldozer paving a way to the solution with the student like frantically trying to stay in front of the plow as I went. And we'd get to the solution, sure, right? Like we'd get the correct answer. But the thing is, as a mentor, I failed, because as soon as I stepped away to work with another student, that student was like still stuck. They hadn't actually learned anything from what I did. And sure enough, when they went to start the next part of that exercise, honestly, they were even more lost than they were before, because now not only did they not learn the concepts, but now there's a bunch of code in their solution that was actually really written by somebody else, and they hadn't had a lot of training to do that, to read that code yet. Now the change that I made to not become a terrible mentor was in that outcome that I wanted to achieve. So I went from, my goal is to get to the solution to the problem or to the exercise, and instead it was now actually my job is to get the student to a point where they understand well enough how to reach that solution without my needing to be there. And that changes everything, right? Some of the best experiences I have with mentorship, we don't actually get to the solution while I'm there, but I can step back and confidently know that they are now equipped to get there, with, not a direct path, but to figure out how to get there on their own. And so that requires a whole different set of things that I focus on. So I need now to be thinking about, there's a lot of empathy involved, because I need to now think about, okay, where is this person, like conceptually, how do they see things? How do they think about things? How do they understand this problem? How do they understand where we're trying to get to? How do they learn best? What resonates best with them? What have been my past experiences with them? What's gone well? What hasn't gone well? Those are the things I need to be thinking about as a starting point. Then it's about not so much getting to the solution, but thinking about, what would the path be to get there, right? And heck, in some cases, I don't even really know what that is. I remember at this web development bootcamp, they have a React as part of the core curriculum right now. And I remember when I first started doing this, I did not know anything about React, but I had a great solution for that. Whenever a student asked me a question and I didn't know the answer, I'd just be like, cool. So what does the internet have to say about that? And I'd be just like, oh, yep, see, that's what you should be doing. So like as a senior developer wanting to get more into coaching, right? I think the first kind of tool, if you will, is the mindset shift. And it revolves around problems. Like I actually love problems. Like to me, problems aren't problems. Problems are opportunities with consequences, right? And so when a problem comes up, and this, whether as a senior dev who's mentoring another developer, or as like a team lead, or even in a management context, right? Like people will come to you and they've got problems. And the first thing that I'm thinking about when they tell me about their problem is literally, what's the opportunity here, right? Because problems, in order to solve a problem, we usually have to grow or change or learn something, right? And so every time someone comes to me with a problem, I mean, look, every now and then it's like, in a management context, hey, we need to enter, we need a credit card so we can sign up for this premium account or whatever. Like, okay, sometimes, yeah, I just need to solve the problem. But, usually it's something where like, look, I might have opinions, but what I'm more interested in is what is the opportunity here for you to learn something new or to challenge yourself or to grow in order to solve this problem. And then my thinking is no longer how do I solve this problem, or even how do I get you to solve this problem. Now it's like, how do I help facilitate that change or that growth that I think you would benefit from as part of solving that problem, right? And in doing this, so one, that will also help the person you're coaching or the mentee, but also this is really important for you to learn, like for delegation, right? Because you do need to make that distinction sometimes of what's appropriate. A task that feels like just the right size, or a challenge that feels like it's just the right fit for you with your level of experience and knowledge and so on, might be too big to the person that you delegate it to. And so you've got to kind of get a feel for what's the right type of support, what's the right level of support you need to give them, what's the right kind of shape and size of the different tasks that you would delegate to them, as well as, hey, look, especially with junior developers, like they come in very unopinionated, right? Like they want to learn about all kinds of things, and they're going to ask why a lot. They really want to understand why things are the way they are. And you know what? Like there's a lot of things that like you just do it this way, and I have no idea why. I could not explain it to you. And those are the times when I'm kind of forced to be like, I actually don't know why we do that. I'm going to look into that, right? So the funny thing is that mentoring other people also is an opportunity for me to learn as well.